Welcome back to the show, everybody. Now to talk about some of today's biggest political stories, we bring in our power panel. With me is Bill Press, host of the Bill Press Show on SiriusXM Radio, Christina Bellantoni, associate politics editor of CQ Roll Call, and Heidi Harris, host of the Heidi Harris Show on KDWN in Las Vegas. Welcome, everybody.
Hi.
Hey, Jake.
All right, now our first question, does Rudy have amnesia? Bill Kristol reports Rudy Giuliani is planning to get into the 2012 race. This is a guy who spent $66 million in 2008 and only managed to get one delegate. At that rate, he'll need to more than $75 billion to win the nomination this time. It's a lot of money. Bill, you laughed. Any chance he wins? And do you believe he's actually getting in?
I think he might get in. You know what, Jake, do we have amnesia? Does he have amnesia? I mean, we haven't forgotten how badly he did the last time around. I think it's a case of two things. One, where the ego gets so big that it really affects somebody's vision. And secondly, I think it shows how desperate the Republicans are. They keep looking for somebody else because this whole gang of 29 candidates or whatever they've got, there's not one serious candidate among the whole bunch.
I'm going to agree with the first thing Bill Press said. There's a phrase that the military uses. It's called SA, situational awareness. Politicians do not have it. Rudy Giuliani had about the worst run campaign since, oh, that's right, Newt Gingrich, right? So I agree with Bill on that. But, you know, there are a lot of good people in the race. Just give them some time, Bill Press. The answer's there somewhere. I'm sure it is.
Well, Christina.
How many did need?
All right, well, Christina, look, last time he had about the worst strategy I've ever seen in a presidential primary contest. He decided he'd wait for, the 38th state? You know, he waited for Florida, and then he came in third.
Banking it all on that. I'd love to know if he has a different strategy if he does get in this time around. But don't forget, that wasn't $66 million of his own money. Those were people who wanted him to run. And if he can raise any money this time, people do look at those national polls, even though if you cover politics, you know that that's pretty meaningless when it comes to the Republican nomination. The bigger question is whether somebody like Rudy Giuliani, who is a social moderate, if there's really any room for him within this primary. You know, he had his whole national security 9/11 thing in 2008. I think it's a really different situation now with the economy being the major focus, and our voters really going to look to a social moderate when they have a pretty big field out there.
Well, especially when we've already got Mitt Romney's already talking about global warming, man-made, so there you go. We've already got that covered.
Right, let me throw something else in here. We're all being too nice, right? Rudy Giuliani has so much personal baggage, he makes Donald Trump look like an altar boy. Now, none of that came out the last time, but come on.
It didn't have time to.
The New York reporters can't wait.
You know, if Trump got into the race, then we would have 3 different Republican candidates with 3 wives apiece.
What's the limit? Maybe we can get that guy on that bigamy show to run, or polygamy show to run in. I don't know.
Heidi, are you buying this? I mean, Heidi, as a conservative here, is anybody interested in Giuliani? Is anybody excited by this?
Who? No, nobody cares about Giuliani. And it was interesting what Christina said about the $66 million. She's right. Donors gave that money. Are they going to give it again? They're not that stupid. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
But, Christina, real quick, Bill Kristol is the one publishing this. Is he pushing it? Are the neocons interested?
I mean, I think everybody in the media needs to have something to write about for the next year and a half. So people are going to continue to write about, and the polls do show there is dissatisfaction with the GOP field, but that's in part because the race hasn't really gotten off. Voters are not really paying attention yet. Once we get to the Iowa straw poll, that's going to be a whole different story. That's only a couple months away.
Bill Kristol brought us Sarah Palin the last time, right? Remember that?
Well, that worked out great for us. But you know what? She's still running strong, 1 or 2 in the polls, so maybe that's part of the problem with the Republican Party. But let's go to the next question. What's the debt got to do with it? Republicans managed to turn everything, including talk of creating jobs, into a lecture on the country's debt. What House Majority Leader Eric Cantor said today after meeting with Vice President Biden. Listen.
We believe that much of the problem surrounding the lack of job creation and growth in this country has to do with the fact that there isn't a credible plan to manage down the debt and deficit in this country.
All right. Okay, Heidi, do people really believe this? I mean, do Republicans really believe this, that if we cut spending, that somehow magically jobs will grow?
Well, we have to cut spending because people won't hire anyone if they're not know what the future is going to be for the country. That's the problem. The biggest problem is confidence. It's not that all these companies in America don't have any money. They just are scared to death to spend it, just like a lot of average American citizens like me are not spending money that we're not sure we need to spend because we don't know what's coming around the corner. So I think he's right about that.
Hey,
Bill, you buy it?
look, all of us recognize we have a serious debt problem. We've got a serious deficit problem. But there's a serious plan out there, which is the president's budget plan. And then there's a crazy plan, which is the Paul Ryan plan. I think the Republicans, here's where they're failing. They're making the big mistake, number one, of thinking Americans think this is a number one issue. It's not. Jobs and the economy are the number one issue. And two, they talk fiscal responsibility, but they don't want to get rid of the subsidies for the oil companies, the tax cuts for the wealthy. They don't want to cut the Pentagon. They don't want to do anything about the war in Afghanistan. They're hypocrites on this issue.
Oh,
and the American people
if you
know
want
it.
to start getting rid of subsidies, we can go down a list. We have a lot of them.
Christina, is it credible? Is it credible, Christina, to say, hey, if we cut spending, somehow that'll create jobs, especially between now and the election, which is, next year and a half? Is that even feasible? How would that work?
I am not an economist, but I will point out that we have cut spending, and that is a question that I think the Obama White House is tossing back at the majority leader of looking at, we have made a lot of significant changes, and we are working on the economy. But I think it's also important to throw this question back to Cantor of, look at some of the people in your caucus are saying that it would be okay to default on the nation's debt if they don't increase the debt ceiling. I mean, that's a bigger question, and that certainly would not create much certainty for businesses who are going to be hiring. So there's a lot of rhetoric that's going around. I mean, it's all politics, and everyone is worried about keeping their own job in the next election.
Now, one more thing about this. When you look at the polls, about half the country trusts President Obama on Medicare, only 35% for the Republicans. But now we're looking at the White House putting Medicare apparently on the table. Bill, is that a terrible idea? Why go down that road with the Republicans?
Look, it came up today at the briefing, Cenk, and let's be careful. The president is not putting Medicare on the table to kill it the way Paul Ryan is, the way the Republicans who adopted the Paul Ryan plan are. What the president is saying is there's significant savings in how you deliver Medicare over the next 10 years that can save money. In other words, reform it, don't kill it. There's a big difference there, and the American people understand.
Here's the problem, Bill.
I think the Republicans committed political suicide by adopting the Ryan plan. They voted for it. It's their baby.
Yeah, but the problem is your version of saving Medicare, reforming Medicare, is to pay doctors less money. I got news for you, buddy. A lot of doctors are not going to take Medicare patients. Do you know the doctors don't have to? Doctors don't have to take Medicare patients.
Heidi, that's not part of the plan. You're behind the curve there. Heidi, you don't know your facts. That's behind the curve. That's been said.
What you're talking about reform is paying doctors less money.
Heidi, let me ask you a different question. If the White House comes in and says, look, we cut Medicare, but we're not calling it cutting it, we're calling it reforming it, does that let you guys off the hook? Do you feel like, hey, thank God, man, we were getting killed on this issue. Now here comes the Democrats to the rescue? I
don't think we're getting killed on the issue on the right. I think people on the right don't want to kill Grandma. We want Democrats who say that Medicare is not in trouble are lying to you. And if you want to believe their lies, you can. I want Grandma to have that. I don't want Grandma to die.
Heidi, I got two words for you. Yeah. New York 26. You tried that argument in the most conservative district in New York State, and you lost your shirt on it.
But Christina,
real quick question for you.
That is one special election.
Christina, put aside whether you agree or disagree on the Medicare cuts, etc. It does seem objectively that the Republicans are not in good shape on it. Poll numbers, 26th district, etc. Am I seeing that wrong?
That was one special election. I think it's not a predictor of what will happen in 2012. There's going to be a million factors that go into that election, including the presidential race. But it is also important to really look at the fact that Republicans are campaigning on this as well. So they're looking at certain polling, they're looking at the American people, and they think that this is a winning issue for them. So it's not a real clear-cut one person wins and one person loses.
Oh, I think it is. I really disagree. I think on this issue, Republicans have put the House of Representatives in play on this one issue.
Well, then, Bill, okay.